Hello friends, my name is Ajay and welcome back to another video. Some of you may already know, some of you may not, that I am a high school senior, and where I live, school started about 1 month ago. Now, due to the coronavirus pandemic, our school system has been on complete remote learning for all students, and it is planned to open up for a few people, but I have signed up for the entire year of remote learning. Now, in this video, I wanted to talk about some of my experiences throughout remote learning, kind of talk about some of the things I noted, some challenges that we went through, and also some of the good things about remote learning. And I want to answer the question, is it really that bad? So in this video, there'll be some discussion, some tips for a successful school year. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. Alright everyone, so the first thing that I want to talk about in this video are a few of the challenges that kind of a lot of people have experienced, both me personally, and I want to talk about my own experience and then also what other people are saying. And I also wanted to kind of talk about the things that I learned to help combat some of these problems. This is kind of be some tips for you guys also to be able to, if you feel or you have similar kind of experiences of some ways that you may be able to mediate that. I want to talk about the challenges before I talk about all of the good things so that we can get all the negatives out of the way first. And kind of the first thing that a lot of people have noted as we've kind of switched to remote learning is that, this is new for everybody. The students, the teachers, it's new for everybody, and they all have to adjust. And because there are so many people adjusting at the exact same time to things that they are not used to doing, there are bound to be some sort of hiccups along the way, especially when it comes to technology. Because we are no longer physically in the school, everyone has pretty much turned to technology to be able to provide that kind of virtual learning environment. Now, for context, my school uses the Google G Suite system. So we use things such as Google Meet, and then we use the Google Doc sheets and slides for a lot of our different classes. And some teachers may opt to use different technologies as well. Like some of mine have used Nearpod in the past. Some of them may be using something else. But generally, our school uses the Google system as well as Google Meets for calls. And there have been many other pretty much school systems around the country that may use something different. They may use something such as Zoom. They may use, I don't know if any teachers would use Skype at this point, but it is very possible that there are also a few systems that are using Skype. But in general, that technology, because so many people have been trying to use it at the same time, there are of course bound to be problems. And there are sometimes occasional glitches and hiccups. For example, there was one day where statewide our login system pretty much went down for a while, so they had to go and fix it. And obviously, these are problems that were especially prevalent within the first month as everybody is kind of adjusting and getting used to the remote learning environment. Now, I believe that once time goes on, especially we've already passed a month, maybe over a month, that a lot of these problems are going to start to be alleviated, in the sense that even if you compare your first week of remote learning to your fourth or fifth week, there are a significantly less amount of problems. That's simply because the students have adjusted, they've adjusted their own technology to be able to accommodate whatever the teachers are using. The teachers have also learned how to use the different systems, and all the way on the system side, the actual servers and everything and the infrastructure for a lot of these websites and services have been upgraded so that, so that more people can use it. Another example I like to point out is Kahoot. A lot of people use Kahoot for kind of doing quizzes. Their join codes, if you notice, have gotten longer, and that's because there are so many people joining. They need more join codes so that people are able to join more and more Kahoots. So in terms of the technology problems, that's something that I did want to point out, and it is getting better over time. So while that may be a challenge, especially a challenge that I've faced and some other people in our state have faced, kind of in the first month, it is beginning to go away, and we're starting to get better to a normal and everything, or into a system where everything is working perfectly. Or rather, as perfectly as we can get it to. Alright everyone, another challenge that I have personally faced, and a lot of people that I know have also faced, and this kind of goes with the entire technology and using technology for the classroom and for remote learning, of course, is extended technology use. Now on average, compared to previously, now of course, in my case, I do YouTube, as a lot of you may have already seen some of my previous videos, and of course, I have also done a lot of programming, so I use the computer a lot already on a daily basis. But in general, because now we are learning on the computer, a lot of people who even weren't on the computer as much before have to be on the computer. Some people who may have been on the computer for 2 to 3 hours a day are now on the computer for almost 6 to 7 hours a day. And that is, of course, something that a lot of people have been concerned over. In fact, my school system they're trying to even implement an entire day called asynchronous learning, where we're not doing live sessions. Of course, we still have to use the computer to do the assignments, but that's besides the point. But at least there are a lot of people, even all the way in the school system level, as your school systems may have also noted in their meetings and in their kind of programs, that this is, of course, a concern, especially for younger students, such as, first, second grade. They are having to now learn remotely, and they're sitting in front of a computer for a very long period of time compared to what they're used to. And this is something, of course, that is unavoidable, right? Anybody who's doing remote learning, the extended technology use, that's kind of an unavoidable thing. There's nothing that we can really do about it to be able to kind of alleviate the amount of time that we have to sit on a computer to finish assignments and to listen to class. Because simply, there's no other way to do those things. Now, in general, one of the things that I recommend, and something that I've also been doing, is just try to take some time away from the computer. Try to step back a little bit. Maybe go for a walk. I've been going for a walk recently every day in the morning, and I think that it is a great, great thing, because not only do you get fresh air, you are able to, and you can go when there are not a lot of people out, so you don't have to worry about getting sick from somebody. But generally, it's very nice to be able to step away from the computer, maybe breathe some fresh air, while at the same time also getting exercise. It pretty much helps so many things. Also, if you're going for a walk, it's a little bit more, it's often more calming, so it helps even if you have a lot of stress, you can help to reduce that as well. So definitely, maybe go for a walk. If you are, into cooking, maybe you can cook. Or if you haven't ever cooked, maybe you can try to cook or try to do some sort of hands-on activities away from the computer, and that'll be really helpful for you. And I think that it is something that all of us will need to do, especially as the months go by, as people continue to be on remote learning for an extended period of time. Another thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of remote learning, which is something that is very common, is distraction, right? Our phones. And it could be phones, it could be literally anything within the environment. If you live in an area where you're able to get your own private area to do classes, that is very good, but not everybody, of course, has that luxury, right? You may be sitting in a room and there may be people behind you either working or cooking or, doing something which is a little bit distracting. So the environment that you're in, you can sometimes get easily distracted on remote learning. Right? Because when you're in a classroom, now of course people are still on their phones in class, but the teacher may say something to them, and there are also other peers simply around them. And you're not in your own home environment, you're kind of in a desk. The only possessions that you really have are what's on your desk and what's in your book bag. So there's a less chance for you to kind of, get distracted or, notice something and then get up and walk away from your desk. And so that is something that is, obviously, a lot of people have had that. I have also, especially in the first few weeks, sometimes you notice something, you'd have to get up, you'd have to, attend to it, or you get, some sort of notification, which you then have to, swipe away or something. And that, of course, they are distractions. And because we're on technology for class, it's very hard to avoid those distractions, right? If you're on a computer, for example, and you see a notification pop up on the side of your computer, you can turn on Do Not Disturb, but you may still get notified on, your phone. If you're doing remote learning also through your phone or through some sort of tablet, that is even in heightened kind of sense for distraction, especially if you're in the same setting. Now, one of the things that I recommend, what I've also been doing, which I think is really cool, is to kind of change where you're sitting and where you're kind of learning, the actual location, right? So like if you're sitting on the same desk constantly for weeks and weeks, you're going to eventually get tired, you're going to get more fidgety, more distracted. And one of the best things you can do is, let's say if you have a little area outside that you can sit, if it's good weather, you can, try to sit outside. And if there are a lot of traffic, maybe you would have to wear a mask. But otherwise, you can kind of, just be in your kind of the back of a house, or kind of in the front of your living house or apartment or whatever. And that may be something that also may be beneficial for you, and kind of changing the environment. I think that that's really good, because especially if you get to sit outside, you get a little bit of fresh air and you're able to change your setting, and it really helps you to kind of remove those distractions. And it also allows you to kind of, when you change your scenery, you may be a little bit more, a little bit more focused, because you're not, you're not tired of pretty much being in the exact same place all the time. And that's also something that I recommend, because, in school, you're constantly moving between different classrooms. For example, well, it depends. A lot of schools do that. Some schools, the teachers actually rotate, but where I am and a lot of places around here, the students rotate between classrooms. And when you're rotating, yeah, you're kind of, even though all the classrooms may look kind of similar, you're still getting up, you're still moving around between classes, you're changing your scenery, you're changing where you are, and that does actually have a big impact, and it prevents people from getting bored and kind of zoning out and getting very tired of the entire school and learning online. So I definitely recommend that. That's something I've done in the past, and I really recommend it. I think that it'll be a great thing to kind of try to get rid of those distractions. All right, everyone, the last thing that I want to talk about, kind of in the challenges that I've experienced, a lot of people have experienced, is simply not being in the school environment. And a lot of people may have noticed, especially people who are a lot more social, they may notice that, they pretty much do not have, their friends are not with them. They're not able to talk to them. They're not able to eat lunch with people. If you're kind of in a lot of clubs, like I know some people who are, into kind of the performing arts and theater, and that community is a very strong knit one. So when everybody is now isolated and at home, you're not kind of congregating, you're not, talking, doing the normal things that, high schoolers do, or even college students or middle schoolers. All these people, they're often very more social, and they're constantly talking to other people. So isolation is a challenge, and that is a challenge that a lot of people have been facing. And, trust me, especially if you're, been inside of your house, either quarantining or just kind of, trying to stay safe from the virus, it has been almost, this became especially a huge problem in March. It's been almost 7 months of kind of just being, locked up and cooped up and not being able to, be one-on-one with different people. And of course, some people followed that more strictly than others, but in general, people are more isolated than they were before. And one of the things that is very, technology can be used to kind of bridge that. A lot of people can, you could organize times with their friends, and you should talk to them and maybe organize a time every month that you want to actually do for, being able to kind of, meet together, maybe play something, talk, whatever, and just setting aside a time every day. You should recommend it, or maybe not every day, but every week or something. You should definitely set you should set aside a time and make that a dedicated time for you to be able to kind of relax and, kind of talk, play, or just kind of, be with some other people than, just the people who are within your home. That is very, very important. Now, back to the thing I was talking about in terms of the school environment, of course, the entire thing of clubs, meeting after school, meeting with people, again, the performing arts, if you're into that, if you're doing band, all those things have been disrupted, right? Because of remote learning. And one of the things that, a lot of people say is that, man, all these things are, gone, especially if you're in senior year, right? There's so many different events that, go on for seniors, and everything is gone, everything is ruined, right? But actually, one of the things which is interesting is you should kind of see what your school is doing. Because a lot of schools, they are trying, because they know, that this is not the ideal situation, and they're really trying to do something to help people and to make them, feel good, especially as seniors or people who are in kind of the in high school or in any other type of school, any schooling. There are going to be different programs that the school is trying to do to make people, have a little bit more of the same normalcy that they would have had, or at least some attempt of doing that. And one of the things that I recommend, actually, which is something quite interesting, is you should try and just look at what there's offering, or what school events are being offered, and just see if you want to participate in them. And you can even see that if you may, participate in something that you never would have done before if it wasn't for this virus. Like, for example, my school, we had we had a senior parade where people would come in their cars, they decorate their cars for something, and they gave us little gifts and stuff, and if you bought a t-shirt from the school, you could also get that from there. And that's something that a lot of people may not have participated before, especially those who are like, they didn't want to decorate their car or whatever, and so they didn't. But in my case, I don't know if I would have done something like that if it wasn't for the virus, but because of it, I decided, well, why not? I might as well do it. And it turned out to be a really good thing. And so I kind of recommend for you guys as well, if your school are doing some things, which you may be considering, I don't really feel like doing that, or, I wouldn't have done this, or I don't know if I want to, just kind of think about it and just see that maybe it may not be a bad idea. Because those things will help you, especially if you're in the last few years of high school. And because of this virus, the school is really trying their hardest. And pretty much everyone in the country, all these schools are trying really hard to make sure that their students have a good experience at their school. So they're going to try to add some of these events and different things. And I just recommend, trying out something that you may have never tried before. That's one way that we can get over the challenge of kind of being isolated in a way without activities and all of those things within our school. Alright everyone, I've talked about a lot of challenges and I've qualified them also, kind of with some ways and some tips that you can be successful even despite some of these challenges. And there are, of course, a lot of challenges with remote learning, but remote learning also, there is something good about it. There are a lot of things good about it actually, and there's a lot of bright side to the particular situation that we're in and being kind of remote and learning on the computer. And one of the things, and there are a lot of things I'm going to go over, which I think actually, are some positives that we can gain out of this. And one of the main things is that because of remote learning, we have more time. We have more time to be able to work, on our assignments, on studying, whatever, even between classes. Because in a lot of cases, the school systems are actually cutting down the time that you're learning live, so that you have, for the kind of preventing that challenge of being on the computer so long, but also that it gives people more time to complete their assignments earlier than they normally would. So let's say that your class used to be 1 hour and 30 minutes, and now it is 45 minutes. Well, now you have 45 minutes to complete all of the work for, that previous class. And so that's something that is really, really good, especially if you're on a system where they're not doing, all the time is live, some of it's live and some of it is asynchronous or non-live work, then that is something that is going to be really, really good. And that is something that has been very, very good in the sense that you're able to finish your work a little bit earlier, and that leaves a lot more time. Now, what do you do with this time? Well, this time, one of the things that I think that remote learning, one of the biggest blessings of remote learning, is that it gives people a lot more free time to be able to kind of explore what they want to do and just experiment with different things. Like, for example, I will say that I have been making videos on this channel now for the last 10 months, or at least 11 months even. I did it since December of 2019. And because of the entire remote learning experience that we had, starting from pretty much March all the way until now, I haven't really been inside of the school. It's given a lot more time, and in that time, I've been able to, for example, record videos for you guys. And there are, people who, let's say, are working on their own side things, or they're just kind of learning, or they want to, for example, experiment or learn some new skill, or, there's so much free time now that you can actually focus on a lot of those things, especially if you're kind of a freshman, a sophomore, or a junior in high school. Now, seniors, there's another thing that they have more time for, which I'll get into in a second, but for kind of juniors and those group of people, there's a lot more time that you're kind of going to be able to use almost to your advantage, simply to kind of figure out what you want to do, because of course going to college is a big thing and you're going to be doing it in the future, so you can kind of, you have more time for research, more time for, kind of just experimenting and trying out new things. And that is one of the biggest benefits in my mind for remote learning. You have a lot more time to simply be able to try out different things you've never tried out before. You can, learn about different things, see if you're interested in them, and perhaps even develop a big interest or, even start something with the time that you have. And I think that that is one of the biggest bright sides to remote learning out of all of them, one of the biggest positives. And that is very, very good for a lot of people. And for seniors also, it gives more time to simply get ready for college because, of course, college, the applying to college, going to college, all of that is the biggest, the big topic of senior year pretty much for everybody. So that is something that is, that is a bright side, and that is something that you will have more time to focus on. Another thing is that you have more flexibility in your daily schedule, right? You can kind of pick and choose what you want to do, especially if you're on remote learning and you have live classes. You have your live sessions, but then how you complete your assignments, you can kind of, organize different things. You can make time. For example, in the amount of time that you would take in your bus rides or in car rides, if you're doing carpool, to get to school, that transportation time is also cut out. So for example, you can spend more time on, let's say you can exercise, you can take care of your health, you can, like I said, going for a walk is very good. You could even run if you are, if you want to. For exercise, you can do that. You can, finish your assignments ahead of time, giving you more free time to be able to, work on things that you're interested in. And simply, you can also, fix different habits and different schedules. For example, your eating schedule can become a lot more regular now that you have, a little bit of time. You may have better sleep schedule because you can now wake up just slightly later than usual because you don't have to account for that transportation. So those are all really good things from remote learning and having that flexibility in your calendar. Another thing which I felt, which is very interesting, is that there is a lot, as I said before, there's a lot more time to kind of factor into physical activity and health. You have that ability now because, you're at home for a longer period of time. And in fact, for those who are who eat school lunches, right? As we all know, school lunches often aren't, the best things in the world. So now that you're at home, you have the ability also to eat better food because you're going to be eating it in your own house. So there are a lot of those benefits toward health and schedule and kind of your well-being, your everyday life. And then another thing which I wanted to point out, because some people have, mentioned that to me also as I've kind of talked to some people about remote learning and how they feel about it. Another thing is that there's going to be less stress from other people, if that makes sense, right? That because a lot of people, they may be trying to compete with others within their own classes, within their own groups. And oftentimes when you're in the school building, you are unable to avoid that. And you are going to be within that more kind of pressurized environment. But at home, you're a little bit removed from that, right? You're kind of more working with yourself. The people who would normally pressure you, or, if you have that pressure from peers, that's pretty much gone because now you are talking remotely and you don't have to talk to them face to face. And simply, there's just a lot less stress for some people in that regard also. So there are a lot of good things for remote learning, which in my opinion, they even supersede a lot of the challenges, because the challenges is that we all are facing, the millions of students in remote learning, those things are beginning to kind of, they're beginning to reduce as time goes on. And there are so many different things, as I talked about, some tips that I thought would be very helpful to kind of remediate some of those challenges. If you employ those, then really you can make this year a really good year. And that, of course, in my conclusion, is that there are a lot of things that are good. There are a lot of things that we can do to kind of overcome the challenges. But mainly, we want to focus. This is a very unique time, a very unique year that everybody will remember, right? Probably for decades of being in school during a pandemic, right? So we want to make the most of it. We want to be able to do what we can given the situation we're in. And if we're able to do that, we are going to be able to turn a bad situation potentially, or an unfortunate situation, into a really good situation for everybody involved, and it'll be very fun. All right, everyone, that was a little bit of a longer video, so thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you have any comments, you want to kind of talk about your own experiences, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I love reading all of your comments. All right, everyone, if you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe for more programming tech and school-related content. And as always, thanks for watching. See you all in the next one.